Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. Thanks for the panel's time this afternoon. Appreciate all your contributions to this important topic, and I'm grateful for these views. I'm thinking I've enjoyed the conversation so far, particularly, in the area of innovation and in the discussion about mitigation and the data necessary to plan that mitigation in the right way, because for 30 years, where this climate change was just an unformed topic, people have been building more and more expensive infrastructure in places that they probably shouldn't have built it anyway, regardless of climate change. I think we've way overbuilt coastal islands and ravines in suburban LA, and not smart building, but that's what county commissioners and cities wanted for tax revenue, and so they made some bad decisions. I think that's compounded this mitigation challenge that we face, and I hope that local governments are thinking about that as well. But in the innovation issue, I was so intrigued by the discussion. I live in Arkansas. We have about 19.5% of our energy is generated by nuclear through Entergy, which is a publicly traded company, one of the few companies that has its own goal to meet its cutting its carbon emissions over 50% by 2030. And they've done that by relying on nuclear as a big part of their strategy, not to the extent of some utilities, but I'm concerned they won't replace it because of lack of innovation, regulatory costs, lack of regulatory innovation, just the general expense of nuclear, and I think that'll be a shame. They're one of the first companies, Arkansas Power and Light and Mississippi Power and Light, to innovate in nuclear. So I hope that we can have a strategy that includes robust nuclear energy, and that America returns to a leadership role there, and that we have all these national labs who had a little hand in inventing nuclear energy. It would be nice if they could help us roll out a low-cost nuclear reactor component for the third world. Would you comment on that, Mr. Powell?
Sure, and then
I'd like to hear from both of you.
This is absolutely vital. Today's nuclear reactors are terrific machines. They're operating, as Mr. Kotek mentioned, at historically low cost, at extremely high reliability, and yet, given all the benefits of the shale gas revolution that we discussed earlier, and given the subsidies we've given to intermittent renewable energy, power prices are now so low in so many parts of the country that they're no longer economic to continue operating. And in some cases, it would be cheaper for a utility to shut it down because some of its other attributes aren't being compensated for. So we can do two routes to that. One is we can continue innovation on the existing nuclear fleet, and we should. There's a terrific program at the National Lab Complex on increasingly lowering the cost of those and making sure that we can do second life extensions to those reactors so that we can extend their life all the way out to 80 years. And when inevitably some of them need to be replaced, we need to make sure that we have a more economical solution to replace them with. And that's why efforts like the Nuclear Energy Leadership Act that Representative Briggleman is leading on, which set a moonshot program at the Department of Energy to develop new advanced nuclear reactors, which would be smaller, cheaper, and more flexible than the existing generation. That's why that legislation is so important.
Excellent point, and thank you, sir, for making it. Part of the reason we started the Gateway for Accelerated Innovation in Nuclear at DOE during my time there was to try to bring the resources of the national laboratories more to bear in assisting private sector companies in developing new nuclear technologies and getting them to market. The challenges that those innovators are facing now largely stem from just the large capital requirement to get a new technology through the licensing process and then through to demonstration. So laws like NELA will help greatly in making that a reality. Of course, then we'll need the appropriations necessary to sort of hold up the public sector side of a public-private partnership to demonstrate those technologies. We also need to provide a demand signal that the carbon-free generation from nuclear is going to be valued equally with that from, say, wind and solar, right?
You made that point.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate Entergy's leadership and Arkansas Electric Cooperatives. Both have been leaders also in the solar arena, and both have put in plants now in Arkansas that have significant battery storage, which is a new scene institutionally in our state to have large solar arrays, but have the storage, because that's one of the biggest detriments to renewables is we don't have the storage. And I appreciate DOE's significant $60 million a year of research in batteries. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.